بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. Just to round up then, Ikhwan, the last point that we had to mention, which was and is an important point, and in essence the topic would be somewhat deficient without mentioning some of the principles that go against this most important science of Jarh Tadeel in our time, those principles that have been brought about in our time. And perhaps if we understand these principles and these points, we will understand why our scholars have spoken against certain individuals and certain people from those who may have been given respect previously. First of those principles, Ikhwan, is a principle and a qa'idah known as Qa'idatu al-Muwazanat. Qa'idatul Muwazanat is a principle brought about by the people of Hizbiyah in order to weaken the mabda and weaken the asl of Jarh wa Ta'deel. And we'll mention these principles quickly and briefly. Qa'idatul Muwazanat, Ikhwan, is the principle that they establish wherein they say, if you're going to speak about an individual, then it is only just and right that you mention his good alongside mentioning his bad. If you're going to mention some bad points about him, then at least be just and mention the good points as well, so that it is a balanced view and it is a balanced consideration of the man. You don't just blast him, but you mention the good, you mention the bad, and in that is balance. And that statement, no doubt, Ikhwan, for the one who is jahil, the one who doesn't know, he will hear the statement and believe that, well, it's a fair point. If you're going to speak about someone, then mention the good, mention the bad. That is just. But as we mentioned, Ikhwan, it goes against the mabda and the principle of Jarh wa Ta'deel. And it goes against that which is present from the Sani' and from what we saw and observed the scholars of the Sunnah carrying out. The actions of the scholars of the Sunnah when they warned is that they warned without praising. And in actuality, if you look at the book, if you look at the Sunnah, then you will see that this affair remains the same. And there is warning without praise. When Allah Azza wa Jal warns, Allah warns without praise. When the Prophet ﷺ warned, he warned without praise. The Prophet ﷺ, in the hadith that we mentioned yesterday, he warned without praise. Allah Azza wa Jal, mathalan, when he spoke of those who had fallen into disbelief, he warned without praise. لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ ثَالِثُ ثَلَاثَةٍ. Kuffar indeed are those who say that Allah is the third of three. Indeed, kuffar are those who say that Ezra is the son of Allah. Uzair ibn Allah. Uzair is the son of Allah. Allah Azza wa Jal warned without praise. The Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he addressed the affair of that Akhul Ashira, that individual in the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha that we mentioned, he warned without praise. Give him permission. فَبِئْسَ أَخُ الْأَشِيرَةِ هُوَ. He said, give him permission, and what an evil relative he is to have. He didn't say, but he establishes good and he gives, and he makes salah, and he gives in charity, and he prays Jumu'ah, and he fasts in Ramadan, and he does a number of other good deeds. Rather, he said, إِذِنُوا لَهُ وَبِئْسَ أَخُ الْأَشِيرَةِ هُوَ. Give him permission, what an evil relative he is to have. Jarh without ta'deel and without any praise. So we see in the Kitab and the Sunnah that Allah Azza wa Jal, when he speaks against an individual, he speaks with jarh and no praise. When the Messenger ﷺ spoke against someone, speech, jarh and no praise. So we see that in the Kitab and the Sunnah, we don't see this qa'idah and this principle that they attempt to establish. We don't see it being mentioned, and we don't see any evidence for it in the Kitab and the Sunnah. As Shaykh al-Fawzan mentioned when he was questioned about it, he said that goes against the warning itself. If it is that the warning is coupled with praise, then that opposes the warning. If I were to say that such and such an individual, he is a mubtadi', person of innovation and bid'ah. But mashallah, what a person of taqwa he is. And what a person of piety he is. And if you ever see when the brother prays, yaqi, subhanallah, khushur'. And if you ever see his ruku' and his sujood, Allahu Akbar. And I remember that I observed him, but he didn't know that I watched him giving sadaqah, giving charity, and he gave half of his wealth, yaqi. And subhanallah, on an occasion, we were together and a man from among the kuffar came. And he took the man aside, he gave him da'wah for an hour, and the man embraced at his hands. Quickly. Allahu Akbar. What happened to the Jarh? The Jarh has disappeared in the ocean of khayr that has been mentioned about the man. And so what will happen then is, the conclusion that one comes to is, yes, there are some issues, but the man is good, yaqi. He's a good man, and there are numerous elements and issues of khayr that have been mentioned concerning him. So it goes against, ikhwan, that which we saw the salaf of this ummah carrying out. The jarh that they carried out jarh without ta'deel. We mentioned some examples. I wanted to bring, ikhwan, I was going to bring a mountain of books with me from the kutub of jarh wa ta'deel, just to show you and read from them. So that you see, ikhwan, it is not some new fandangled manhaj, but it is the methodology of the people and the scholars of hadith of the past, ikhwan, and throughout time. We mentioned some examples from the du'afa of Imam al-Nasa'i. Imam al-Nasa'i has a book that is authored that he discusses the weak narrators in one place and in one book. And we'll just mention some examples, ikhwan, of some of the narrators that he mentions. Starting from harf alif, Ibrahim. Ibrahim ibn Ismail ibn Abi Habiba, ضعيف, Madani, weak, from Medina. Ibrahim ibn Atiyah, matruk al-hadith, wasiti. Ibrahim ibn Atiyah, abandoned in hadith from Wasit. Ibrahim ibn al-Fadl, matruk al-hadith, Madani. Ibrahim ibn Fadl, matruk al-hadith, abandoned in hadith, Madani. Ibrahim ibn Muslim al-Hijri, ضعيف, Kufi. Ibrahim ibn Muhajir al-Kufi, ليس بالقوي. يعني he's not strong. أيوب ibn Jabir, ضعيف. أيوب ibn Khawt, متروك. أيوب ibn Mudrak, يروي عن مكهول, متروك الحديث. يعني أيوب ibn Mudrak, he narrates from Makhul, the tabi'i, but he is abandoned in hadith. أيوب ibn Wafid, Basri, ضعيف. And the list goes on, إخوان. حارث ibn Nu'man, ليس بالثقة. حارث ibn Nabahan, متروك الحديث. حارث ibn Wajih, ضعيف. حارث ibn Ubayd, أبو قدامة, ليس بالقوي. حديج ibn Muawiyah, بصري, ليس بالقوي. حكم ibn Abdullah ibn Sa'd al-Ayli, متروك الحديث. And the list goes on and on and on. كثير ibn Salim, متروك الحديث. كثير ibn Zayd, ضعيف. هيثم ابن جماز, متروك الحديث. هذيل ibn Bilal, ضعيف يعني مدائني, يعني from Medina. هياج ابن بسطام, هروي, ضعيف. يعقوب ابن الوليد, ليس بشيء, متروك. يونس ابن خباب, ضعيف. يونس ابن الحارث الطائفي, ضعيف. يونس ابن أبي. Imam al-Nasa'i, Imam in ilm and taqwa and wara and piety and closeness to Allah Azza wa Jal and hadith. All of these, ikhwan, either we say all of this is ghiba, or it is something that Ahl al-Ilm understood from the deen and from the sunnah of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the companions Ridwanullahi alayhim. Abu Idam, laysa bil qawi. Abu Rayhana, yarwi an Sufyan. Abu Rayhana, someone who narrates from Sufyan, from the students of Sufyan, laysa bil qawi. Abu Hudba, laysa bil qawi. Abu Muti' al-Khurasani, ضعيف. Yahya ibn Abdullah narrates عن أبيه, ضعيف. Yunus ibn Abi Ya'fur, ضعيف. And the list, ikhwan, goes on and on and on. And I wanted to bring those other books so that you would see that this is a methodology and a manhaj that is established with Ahlul Sunnah. So this manhaj of muwazana, that we should mention the good alongside the bad. Where is it with Imam al-Nasa'i? Where is it with Imam al-Bukhari? Where is it with Abu Zura' al-Razi? Where was it with Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar? Where was it with Imam al-Mizzi? Where was it with Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi and others? Where was this methodology, Imam al-Dhahabi? Where is it? Mentioning the good alongside the bad. That, ikhwan, again indicates the affair, ikhwan, of the batil of these qawaid. And from its evil is, as the scholars have mentioned, tajheel salaf. From its evil is declaring the salaf jahil. Yani the salaf didn't know, but you know. The salaf, all of them were incorrect, but you, mashallah, are correct. Sahaba, tabi'een, atba' tabi'een, a'immatul salaf, all of them are wrong, you're right. And that, ayyuhal ikhwah, indicates the butlan of the statement. We had a number of statements to quote in regards to that from Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Baz and from others indicating the falsity of the statement. Ikhwan, but we'll summarize with our mention of these principles. Another qa'idah batila, another false principle that they mention is the qa'idah of a tathabbut, and it is from the principles that Ali Hassan has been refuted for, and one of the issues against him. Qa'idah to tathabbut, he has mentioned with various and different wordings, and it is connected to another false principle that they use, nusahih wa la nujarrih, that we correct and we don't make jarh. That we correct and we don't make jarh. When you hear the statement, well, that sounds fair. And if we don't have to make jarh, correct and don't make jarh. MashaAllah. And the qa'idah to tathabbut is a principle connected to that. Yani, that when somebody speaks against someone else, natathabbat. That we wait, we don't accept the jarh. Rather, we look into the state of that individual. But listen to what Ali Hassan lays down as a principle in regards to the affair. When he discusses the issue, he mentions in one of the books that he has written, he mentions فَلَوْ حَصَلَ أَنَّ أَحَدًا كَمَا يُقَالُ ذَا عَقِيدَةٍ سَلَفِيَّةٍ فِي نَفْسِهِ وَلَكِنَّهُ مُنْحَرِفٌ فِي مَنْهَجِهِ حِزْبِيًّا كَانَ أَمْ غَيْرِهِ. He said, first and foremost, if then we were to say that we have an individual, كما يقال ذا عقيدة سلفية, يعني as it is said, his aqidah is salafiyah, and he himself is munharif, but he's deviated in manhaj, in methodology. He is a hizbi, or other than that. فإن الشيء الأقوى فيه منهجا أو عقيدة هو الذي سيسيطر عليه. Then the strongest of those two things will overpower him. Listen to the taq'id. Listen to how he attempts to lay the principle down. The stronger of those two things will overpower. He said, فَيُؤَثِّرْ فِيهِ بحيث لا يستمر كما يقال في حالة انعدام الوزن التي يعيشها. He said, so that one of the two, the stronger of the two, will overpower. To the extent that this affair of us being unsure about his state, it won't continue for long. He said, فَإِمَّا أَن يُؤَثِّرْ مَنْهَجَهُ فِي عَقِيدَتِهِ فَيَؤُولُ مُبْتَدِعًا مَكْشُوفًا وَإِمَّا أَن يُؤَثِّرْ عَقِيدَتِهِ فِي مَنْهَجِهِ فَيُصْبِحُ سَلَفِيًّا مَعْرُوفًا. He said, so either his aqidah will overpower his manhaj, and if that occurs, then his affair will be clear. He'll be a mubtadi'. Yani either his manhaj will overpower his aqidah. Either his manhaj, and it is hizbi manhaj of his, will overpower his salafi aqidah, and his affair will become clear. He'll be a clear mubtadi', clear innovator. Or his aqidah will overpower his manhaj, and then yusbihu salafiyan ma'rufa, and then he will be clear salafi. Then he will be clear salafi. وإن الأخير لأحب إلينا من الأولى ولذلك ندعو ونجد ونصبر ونتصبر. He said that if the second occurs, and of course this is more beloved to us than the first, that his aqidah overpowers his manhaj, he becomes salafi, alhamdulillah. He said, and so for that reason we wait, we're patient, and we persevere. Shraikum. Sound good? Sound fair? Tayyib, how a man presents that to you, how do we refute it? Huh? Well, that's a point. Ila mata. But he'll respond until one of the two overpowers the other. Either his aqidah overpowers his manhaj and then he'll be Salafi, or his manhaj overpowers his aqidah and his hizbi mubtadi'. Huh? Ahsant. The mushkila is the separation between the aqidah and the manhaj. The separation between the aqidah and the manhaj, where are you getting this from? The manhaj, the aqidah is from his manhaj. So how can it be said this one overpowers this one and that one overpowers the other? Listen to the statement of Sheikh Muhammad bin Salih al-Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala. He said, لما سئل, when he was asked, هل كان السلف الصالح يفرقون بين العقيدة ومنهج الدعوة? He said, الجواب المنهج بارك الله فيك مبني على العقيدة. Sheikh bin Uthaymeen was asked, did the Salaf used to make a difference between aqidah and manhaj? Was there any difference between them? The Sheikh responded by saying, the manhaj barakallahu fiqh is based upon the aqidah. Is based upon the aqidah. فَمَنْ كَانَتْ عَقِيدَتُهُ سَلِيمًا فَسَيَكُونُ مَنْهَجُهُ سَلِيمًا بِلَا شَكٍّ. And so whomsoever's aqidah is sound, then his aqidah will be sound without doubt. How can it then be said his aqidah is sound? I mean, the issue here is always his aqidah is sound, but his manhaj is deviated. And bear this in mind. When this is used, it is always his sound in aqidah, but his hizbi in manhaj. Why? Because if he was deviated in aqidah, there wouldn't be an issue. They wouldn't be able to even use him. But the fact that, what they attempt to do is establish his Salafi in Aqidah. And what I mean by Salafi in Aqidah is the Ummuhat al-Masail. Yani the mother issues in Aqidah. Asma wa Sifat. Yani Tawheed. He doesn't believe in making tawaf around qubur and making shirk. Yani the affairs of Rububiyyah, he understands them. The pillars of Iman. Yani the fundamentals of Aqidah, Salafi. But when it comes to issues of politics, the rulers, when it comes to demonstrating, when it comes to some of the political issues, some issues of manhaj and what have you, groups and parties, da'wah and what have you, then his methodology is his hizbi or ikhwani. But in aqidah, mashallah. In fact, somebody will go as far as to say it's qawi in asma wa sifat, mashallah. And so Sheikh mentions we don't differentiate between this and this. If his aqidah was sound, his manhaj would be sound. Because the affair returns back to usul. The usul of Ahlus Sunnah and the fundamentals of Ahlus Sunnah are the aqidah and the manhaj. The methodology and the aqidah, both of them are hand in hand. Both of them are considered from the usul of the religion. And you'll see these issues, ikhwan, of methodology in the books of aqidah. And so who then from the salaf of this ummah made this tafriq? But look at the principle. Nusahih wa la nujarrih. We correct and we don't make jarh. And that correction is natathabbat. We wait. If a man makes a statement on an issue, we don't hasten to make rad of him or make jarh of him. We wait. Inshallah, his aqidah will overpower his manhaj and he'll come back. Or his manhaj will overpower his aqidah and that will be clear and there wouldn't be an issue. Batil, ikhwan. Batil. These principles, you have to be acquainted and aware of them. And these individuals, Ali Hassan and Jama'atu, they're invited to England. We have masajid here. You're fully aware of them, inviting them to England. And they're coming, and these principles have been pumped into the ears of the shabab day and night. Day and night in the ears of the shabab. Not even recognizing that these go against ikhwan, the manhaj of the salaf in Jarh Tadeel. That was not their methodology, barakallah fiqh. In fact, as Ahlul Ilm mentioned, this qa'idah of tathabbut and nusahih wa la nujarrih, it's just a far'. and a subsection of the qaida of Ikhwan al-Muslimin. نتعاون فيما اتفقنا عليه ويعذر بعضنا بعضا فيما اختلفنا فيه. Why? Because this qaida, this principle of cooperation of Ikhwan al-Muslimin is we cooperate on what we agree upon and we overlook each other on what we disagree upon. That isn't the exact same thing that's being said here, just repackaged. Consider the statement. نصحح ولا نجرح نتثبت. We wait, inshallah this will happen or that will happen. And in the meantime, while we're waiting, then we cooperate with him, we work with him and so on. While we're waiting, inshallah, to see what happens, he is min ikhwanina and tayyib and kada and da-da-da-da-da. And some people have spoken ill of him, but he's from ikhwan, we're being patient with him, and we're waiting for such to appear to become clear, and so on, and so on, and so forth. And so we have a repackaged نتعاون فيما اتفقنا عليه ويأذر بعضنا بعضا فيما اختلفنا فيه. While we're waiting, he continues with his bid'ah, with his hizbiyah, calling to dalala, calling to individuals of misguidance, and where they're praising him and considering him min ikhwanin at-tayyibin. Another one of the qawaid, another one of the principles, a principle of batil, a false principle, is the principle, similarly, of Ali Hassan, that we make rad of the jarh إذا لم يكن مقنعا, that we repel the jarh if it is not muqni', if it isn't satisfying. If it isn't satisfying, then we repel it. And this qaida, again, ikhwan, is one that goes against the qaida, the qawaid of Jarh wa Ta'deel with Ahl al-Ilm. Na'am, if a person speaks from hawa, and there was jarh that was made purely on desires, and that is established, there is no evidence or no issue whatsoever, it has come from someone who doesn't know the asbab al-jarh wa ta'deel, ma indahu ilm, he has no fahm, no understanding, no such and such and so on, then khalas, you may have a point. As Hafidh ibn Hajar and others have mentioned, and we've read, if it comes from an individual who is jahil, no understanding of jarh wa ta'deel, no understanding of the asbab al-jarh, then it is possible that he's made a jarh, he doesn't even know what he's saying. He doesn't even understand what the reasons for jarh are. Tayyib. But those issues that you speak of, are those like that? And are they of that ilk? And are they of that category? Not one of them. This speech, ikhwan, falls upon the kalam of mashaykhana, the a'imma of jarh wa ta'deel in our time. And this kalam, ikhwan, 99.9% of the time is speaking about Sheikh Rabi'. The one who, our mashayikh, the a'imma and the ulama of Ahlul Sunnah, Sheikh Nasir, the imam of hadith in our time, he mentions the flag bearer of Jarh wa Ta'deel is Rabi' ibn Hadi. And oftentimes we hear people saying, yeah, but then what does that make Sheikh al-Albani? Na'am, Sheikh al-Albani, imam in hadith. But that doesn't necessitate that his issue, or the issue of Jarh wa Ta'deel, that he is greater than Sheikh Rabi' in Jarh wa Ta'deel. Just as we have, mathalan, the affair of Imam Ahmad and Yahya bin Ma'in. Yahya bin Ma'in was a'lam bil rijal. Yahya bin Ma'in was more knowledgeable in rijal than Imam Ahmad. But Imam Ahmad, because Yahya bin Ma'in didn't narrate much. He didn't have a hadith, he wasn't plentiful in riwayah. But he was more knowledgeable in rijal. He was more knowledgeable in the science of the men. Who's who? And why? And who's saying what? And who holds what? And who is thiqa and who is da'if? Yahya bin Ma'in was more knowledgeable in that regard. And there are narrations from Imam Ahmad when affairs would be returned back to Imam Yahya bin Ma'in. And our Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab al-Banna, he said that Sheikh Rabi', he is the Yahya bin Ma'in of this time. And I heard that from the Sheikh with my own ears. Sheikh Rabi' is the Yahya bin Ma'in of this time. And that statement of the Sheikh, that he's the Yahya bin Ma'in of this time, as it relates to knowledge of the men, knowledge of the Ahzab, knowledge of the groups and the parties. And so this statement then, that we wait, or that the Jarh is not muqni', is not satisfying, it is coming from who? One that speaks upon hawa and desires? Or is it coming from the flag bearer of Jarh wa Ta'deel in our time? And the principle, as we mentioned, is when the flag bearer of Jarh wa Ta'deel makes Jarh, then know, and it is known from khibra and from experience with the man, that he doesn't make Jarh based upon desires. And let anybody bring one example, anybody bring one example of our mashaykh speaking against an individual and it was based upon nothing, and it was baseless. One example, just one. That they made a mistake about someone, or that they spoke ill of them and they were wrong. There were no issues with that person. One example. Over the last 50 years, one example. Just one. Another one of the qawaid, ikhwan, another principle, and it's unfortunate, ikhwan, each of these qawaid, really, there is evidence and aqwal and statements, but yeah, يعني ما لا يدرك كله لا يترك جله. That which we're not able to do all of it, we don't leave all of it. Now, another qaida is, another one of the qawaid of Ali Hassan as it happens, and of course, ikhwan, Abu Hassan al-Ma'ribi is from those who agree with it, is the affair of ishtirat al-ijma' fil jarh. The condition of there being ijma' for jarh. Yani before we accept the statement of any alim, then we must know that the ulama have united upon that statement. Nobody differs. And that is something that you'll find among the general people. Yahi, we're being patient, yahi. Not all of the scholars have spoken. Or, yahi, na'am, Sheikh Rabi has spoken and such has spoken. But what does Sheikh Fulan say? And what does Sheikh such and such say? And yahi, we're waiting to hear what Sheikh such and such, even though the mas'ala and the issue is based upon tafsil. It is not jarh mubham. It is not general jarh. And as we've mentioned, ikhwan, that which our scholars author when they speak about individuals far supersedes what you'll find from the detailed jarh in the books of Jarh wa Ta'deel. Books, ikhwan. Books the size of some of the books of Jarh wa Ta'deel against one individual. And then they say there's no detail. And so we hear oftentimes, what are the other scholars saying? We're not going to accept it. Tayyib. That book and those issues that have been observed and those mukhalafat of the sunnah and the statement of that sheikh and that imam and that alim, what is going to repel it? The statement of another alim saying, no, he's good. Is that what we're waiting for? No. Yes, some people have spoken, but he's good. What are we waiting for? The only thing that would repel that jarh is if the scholar that we're waiting on, he approaches the book that was authored. He approaches the muhadara and the lecture that was given, and detail by detail, issue by issue, he responds to each issue with evidence, with adillah that is muqni', that is qawi, that is strong, repelling and proving that the sheikh that wrote and spoke in the first instance, that actually he erred in all of those issues. Well, hayhat. One example of that. One example that actually happened. One. That one of our mashaykh spoke, one of our mashaykh has made a statement, and someone came along and repelled the statement issue for issue and broke each evidence down. Now, what you will find, though, is that another alim comes along and reads the kalam of the sheikh and says, Sadaqa sheikh. Sheikh has spoken correctly. We didn't know of this before. And we weren't acquainted with this. Just like the mas'ala and just like the story that we read of Waki' ibn Jarrah with the Kufiyun, Imam Ahmad. The Kufiyun, they were saying, they don't hear what Imam Ahmad is, or this man is saying. And then in walks Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Imam Waki', he says, here, huna ya Aba Abdullah. Sit beside me. He begins to explain. Imam Waqi'i says, it is kama kult ya Aba Abdullah. It is as you have said. It is as you have said. And so they say, you don't hear what he's saying. خدعك والله al-Baghdadi. The man from Baghdad is tricked you, deceived you. You don't hear what he's saying. And so he said, a man yarwi from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's narrating from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's bringing evidence and dalil. What do you want me to say? And that is what we find with our ulama, with our ai when they speak. Their speech is not based upon hawa and desires. Their speech is based, ayyuhal ikhwa, upon that which is firmly established, that which has been observed. And if one were to speak without that, ikhwan, without evidence, then let those who claim that that happens, let them bring evidence and adillah and dalil. Let them bring it. Let it be brought. An example of them speaking and their speech, ayyuhal ikhwa, was based upon hawa. As far as the ishtirat and the condition, or them laying down a condition of there being ijma', we've already read earlier the kalam of Imam al-Iraqi, that what Ahlul Hadith were upon and united upon is that adad, a number of individuals making Jarh Tadeel, it is not a condition. One is accepted. One is sufficient. And we must constantly return back to the characteristics of the one who speaks. Taqwa, wara', piety, يعني حفظ العلم بقواعد الجرح وبأسباب الجرح والتعديل. And the last principle, ikhwan, that perhaps we'll round up upon is the qaida that they use, and it is one of the principles of Abu al-Hasan, one of the issues Abu al-Hasan al-Ma'ribi was refuted for, and that is this qaida of Radd al-Mujmal ila al-Mufassal. The principle of Radd al-Mujmal ila al-Mufassal, Abu al-Hasan, in his writings, one of the things that he maintains is that whenever we're speaking about an individual, in order to be just with them, then if we know and if we're acquainted with this mukhalafa and with this opposition of the sunnah, but we know that that individual somewhere in his books, in his muhadarat, in his khutab, in his lectures, in his durus, somewhere else, he has maintained the position of Ahlul Sunnah. But in a lecture or in a khutbah, he stands and he opposes Ahlul Sunnah in his statement. They say, or Abu al-Hasan, he maintains, and those who agree with him, is that justice is to make rad and to return that which is general back to that which is mufassal. And then they'll return back to the kutub and the books of usul al-fiqh. And lo and behold, you return back to usul al-fiqh, and na'am, we have this issue of the mujmal and the mufassal. And Ahlul Usul, they mention, when we're looking at the nusus of the kitab and the sunnah, then those things or those texts that are general, they are returned back to those texts that are detailed, and we understand the general in the light of the detail. Qaida, sahiha, mu'tabira, ma'rufa. And so when it comes to Ahlul Bid'ah then, we must likewise return the mujmal ila al-mufassal, or the one who opposes the sunnah, we return the mujmal ila al-mufassal. And we say that yes, he made an error there, or yes, he opposed the sunnah here. But in 1997, he did an extensive lecture series about the Asma wa Sifat, and he qarrar, and he established the principles of Ahlul Sunnah in it. So that error is just an error. But we know, based upon those earlier lectures, that he's upon khayr. Another man stands up, Yawm al-Jumu'ah, and such a leader is such and such. And the leader are kuffar, the leaders are kuffar, and so on. يعني يقرر عقيدة الخوارج ومنهج الخوارج from the beginning of the khutbah to the end of the khutbah. And then somebody stands and says, يا أخي اتق الله. اتق الله, إيش الكلام؟ شو الكلام ده؟ What are you saying, يا أخي? It's a كلام الخوارج. And so somebody comes to his defense, يا أخي, brother, you know. Look, the Sheikh has a series. The Sheikh has a series, 12 CDs, about the position of Ahlul Sunnah with the rulers. Brother, I advise you go back to it before you speak. He did it in 2003. Please. The Sheikh understand everything that you're saying. He's mentioned it in detail, ya akhi. Again, this qaida of Rad al-Mujmal ila al-Mufassar. Qaida, batila. Qaida, batila. It is sound as it relates to the nusus and the text of the kitab and the sunnah. Yes. Al-Ma'soom, yes. Narud al-Mujmal ila al-Mufassar, yes. With the speech of the people though, and with the kalam of Nas, la. The speech of the people is taken upon that which is apparent from it. If a man stands and he makes taqreer of the aqidah of the Khawarij in a khutbah, from its beginning to its end or within it, he is approached and he is confronted. So he establishes the aqidah of the Khawarij. He calls to ISIS. And then we said, no, well, a few years ago, he did a series refuting everything that they're upon. Yes, back then. But right now, the man has just come with balawa. Yani balaya. That kalam, ikhwan, is kalam batil. Don't be confused by these qawaid because they sound convincing. It sounds correct. There is a principle that we return what's general back to what's detailed. And so it confuses the general people. As it relates to Jarh Tadeel, ikhwan, la. That individual, number one, is confronted. Number two, he is corrected. And he is made to correct himself. If he doesn't correct himself, Ahlul Sunnah correct. If he himself doesn't preserve his own honor and correct his mistake, then Ahlul Sunnah will correct him. And that is returning back to this masala of Jarh Tadeel. No, we're not going to allow anyone to say that which they please about the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. The Sunni has ghira about the deen, about the Sunnah. He has ghira. He has jealousy for the Sunnah. Doesn't allow anybody to say and oppose the deen and oppose the Sunnah because he got some tape a few years ago that he did that goes against it. La. If he has that tape, then why has he opposed it here? So either he corrects it, either he brings a tafsir, an explanation, and makes it clear, either now or in a future lecture, or we will correct it. And that is the position of Ahlul Sunnah, always has been. Imam Ahmad, when he spoke, ikhwan, against a number of the A'imma of Hadith, they were individuals who were known for knowledge. The likes, ikhwan, of Al-Mahasibi. Al-Mahasibi, ikhwan, was a person known for ilm. It didn't prevent Imam Ahmad from speaking. Karabisi didn't prevent Imam Ahmad from speaking. When Imam Ad-Darimi, he made the rad against Bishr al-Marrisi, individuals known for knowledge and conveying knowledge and giving da'wah, didn't stop them from speaking. They clarified, they opposed, they corrected, even if somewhere they made a statement that may be in accordance with the haqq. Sheikh Rabi', in his book Al-Jama'a Al-Wahida, Jama'atun Wahida la Jama'at, wa Tariqun Wahid la Asharat. One Jama'a, not Jama'at, one path and not tens of paths. He makes a refutation, the whole book is a refutation of Abdurrahman Abdul Khaliq. In the refutation, he focuses upon the issue of Abdurrahman Abdul Khaliq allowing the splitting of the ummah into groups and parties. And he says that which we observe from the groups and parties, that which we observe from the different jama'at, that which we observe from this group calling to da'wah, and that one calling to politics, and this one calling to dhikr, and that one calling back to going out and giving da'wah and what have you. All of these things we should celebrate them. Kullun ala thaghar. Everyone is defending a post from the perimeters of Islam, and it is all something that is good. Sheikh Rabi' ikhwan established the wajib of rebutting this falsehood. Kaif? Allah Azza wa Jal, in the book of Allah Azza wa Jal, has mentioned وَاعْتَسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Cling to the rope of Allah together and don't divide, don't split. And so where does this principle come from? It is all something that should be celebrated. La. تحسبهم جميعا وقلوبهم شتى. Allah mentions about the Yahud. You will believe them to be united, but their hearts are disunited. How then can we praise something that Allah Azza wa Jalla has dispraised? How? And so the Shaykh established the wajib of Radd against him. From the things that the Shaykh mentioned in the muqaddimah of his Radd was an introduction that Abdul Rahman Abdul Khaliq wrote for one of the books of Shaykh Rabi', yani prior and in the past. And within it he established a refutation, Abdul Rahman Abdul Khaliq himself, a refutation against the groups and parties, and a refutation against the splitting of the ummah, and the fact that the ummah should be united and jama'ah wahida. He established that in the muqaddimah, in the introduction. And the Shaykh uses that as a premise for his refutation against him. That you yourself used to hold it. You yourself used to maintain it in the introduction that you did for me. So where is the qaida, ikhwan, of Radd al-Mujmal ila al-Mufassal? Why didn't the Shaykh just leave the whole thing? He wrote that. Abdul Rahman Abdul Khaliq wrote a Radd against him. A Radd al-Wajiz. And so Shaykh Rabi', why didn't he just say, khalas, we know he's got some kalam where he's already mentioned the issue in its correct manner, khalas. When he wrote Radd al-Wajiz, what did the Shaykh do? He wrote An-Nasr al-Aziz ala Radd al-Wajiz. He wrote a refutation and mentioned the introduction of somewhere in the region of 15 different mashaykh from the ulama of this time. 15 or more. Establishing the fact that no, because you respond, we're not going to remain quiet. Because you believe you have a point, but it goes against that which the Salaf of this ummah were upon, we're not going to remain quiet. Until this methodology is clear. And until the Shabab al-Muslimin, they are clear with that which the Salaf were upon. We will not remain quiet. And that is the wajib of Ahlul Sunnah in every era. And thus we see, ikhwan, the courageous warriors that Allah Azza wa Jal has raised among Ahlul Sunnah in every time up until this very day. Living, breathing warriors and defenders of the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Just as Ibn Abbas, he mentioned individuals who, just like Ibn Abbas said, there is no one that the shaitan would prefer to be destroyed than them. Bid'ah arises in the west and in the east, and they refute it with the sunnah. But they wish for us to remain silent, ikhwan, so that the bid'ah, it festers, it grows, it becomes widespread. Everything, yani the haqq merges with batil, and the ummah just becomes a zoo and a circus. Do as you please, magic tricks, this and that in your da'wah, no problem. And everybody just accepts and submits. That is not, ikhwan, how Allah Azza wa Jal and how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained and described Ahlul Haqq. لا تزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين على الحق لا يضرهم من خذلهم ولا من خالفهم حتى يأتي أمر الله وهم على ذلك. There will never cease to be a group, a ta'ifa, a group manifest upon the truth, not being harmed by those who oppose them, either those who were never with them and oppose them, or those who forsake them. Yani those who were once with them and then abandoned them and left them for some qawa'id batila. حتى يأتي أمر الله, until the affair of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes, and they are upon that. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى يوفقنا وإياكم لما يحبه ويرضاه. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا